Hello, welcome to Turtle WoW News with Vrograg for the week May 23rd, 2023. We have a lot to cover today, from changelogs to announcements from the Turtle WoW team to Market Watch, a new roleplay calendar segment, and a new special premiering here today called Exploring the Mysteries of Azeroth. But first, more pressing matters. I'm the Orc, and here's the news. Our first story unfolded late last week. Server instability ruined some players' playtime this last Thursday evening during peak US player time. The event manifested as multiple crashes and lag spikes that made playing either impossible or reckless, especially for hardcore characters. In response, the Turtle WoW team decided to push forward a 20-minute rollback of all server activities, even advising players to use the Unstuck feature through the main website if the player was worried about the safety of where they were going to spawn in. Later, it was revealed by one of the team leads, Jamie, that the server instability was not a result of server population or any new changelog feature added behind the scenes. Instead, they cited that their server hosting provider was having issues which trickled down into the server woes. I was able to confirm this story with Akalix, the community manager, when discussing the events of the server outage. The hosting provider for the server was the source of the issue. According to the team, their server was on, just not connected to the internet through no fault of their own. Since then, the server has not experienced any similar problems. Hardcore characters can breathe a sigh of relief. Our next story is about vanishing characters. A recent, but hard to reproduce bug has been affecting players on the server making new characters. First reported by JKD13 on the bug tracker, the person noted how newly made characters would not appear on the roster of playable characters after logging out. Even more strange was that the server still would recognize that the account still had that character, since the login screen will display how many characters an account has on any particular server. This did spawn some amount of confusion among the Turtle WoW team, who were having trouble even reproducing the issue. But they do seem to be aware of it, and as of the most recent changelog, they did add a line stating that they were attempting to fix the issue. Hopefully, this problem doesn't persist, and new people joining the server won't lose their characters to the twisting nether. Our next story involves shamans and their ghostly wolf friends. Though it's not known very well, save for only the highest level shamans on the server, but each one of the 3 races available to play Shaman have access to a special racial spell that helps accent the nature of their totem-wielding nature. These changes came out in the last big patch with all the other class changes. One of these racial spells was, in recent history, a much maligned and underwhelming ability for orc shamans, known as Feral Spirit. The ability summons 2 ghostly wolves who are supposed to spring forth and attack the enemy of the shaman. In the PvE and PvP world, this ability was largely considered very weak, and most shamans would just use it because they could, not because it made any distinguishable difference. That was, in part, due to the weak strength of the guardian wolf spirits and the fact that sometimes the wolves wouldn't even attack at all. The matter formally was brought to the attention of the GitHub bug tracker by Kedscode, who reported that the spirit wolf, which has a long cooldown, were reluctant to attack, and when they finally did, they only decided to do so for a measly 24 damage each time they bit. For a shaman at level 58, that is hardly enough to move the needle. The shaman, who was playing with his girlfriend, saw that her Voidwalker, which is a permanent class feature for a warlock, was handily outdamaging both wolves. Whether this is part of laying the foundation for greater class changes to come, or is just a small tweaking of the lesser-known abilities of Shaman, is not yet known. But I'm sure the Orc Shamans of Azeroth are hoping that this will be an impactful change. Make sure to let us know, my Orc brethren, what changes, if any, you notice. Our next story has to do with something that most people walk by and don't give another thought to: the secrets of chests. It's no secret that Turtle WoW strives for their gameplay to be as close to the vanilla experience as possible. Regardless of how you might feel about the current state of Alterac Valley taking so long, that change was, as this orc understands it, in service to the philosophy of making the game as much like vanilla as it can be. So it should be little surprise when in the changelog there was a tweak made to how chests in the world interact with nearby mobs. The small change was something present in both vanilla and classic. In those clients, nearby enemies would react to having their chest looted. GeoJack on the bug tracker remarked, "When you interact with a chest in classic, mobs in line of sight will aggro. This doesn't happen on any vMango server I've played on." It seems that the Turtle WoW team has added this extra bit of immersion to how enemies aggro and react to player actions, because the changelog says, "Opening some chests will now cause nearby mobs to aggro." While they were in there, they even fixed a minor animation bug with how chests open too, according to the log. From an RP perspective, this is a great little addition, adding that last little bit of believability, because looting a chest right in front of someone who stores their valuables in there would likely get upset at you stealing from them. Let us know what you think about this twist, because I'm sure burglars everywhere are upset. Like many changelogs, there were a lot of minor and self-explanatory tweaks that came about, not worth talking about much more than to mention them briefly. So let's jump right in to lightning news flash mode. Hair dye fixes have come in for humans and goblins. Humans got a dye color they were missing, and black male goblin hair dye is now actually black. The reindeer and ivory tallstrider got added to the list of mounts that won't go away when entering water. Hopefully this time without the problems that befell the purple tallstrider. Training pole arms now doesn't cost an arm and a leg, only as much of an arm as 10 silver is worth. I couldn't find the previous cost, but I do remember someone saying that it was in the numbers of gold, which is a hard ask for someone at low level who just wants to use their cool looking spear. The starving Bonepaw in Desolus was giving too much experience points when killed for its level and has now been corrected. Dr. Snuggles 8 reported that the level 30 to 32 mob gave reduced experience points since they had a reduced health pool in Classic, since, you know, they are starving and they're kind of pushovers. Several item inventory sounds were fixed, and one cooking recipe sound too. GitHub user Ailey Jen went to town reporting the numerous missing sounds on the bug tracker. For noticing this minor bug, but helping immersion overall, a heartfelt news anchor orc salute goes out to you, Ailey Jen. Okay, that finishes up most of the changelog. Now, let's go over and take a look at the market with Market Watch. Here is this week's Market Watch. Since we've been collecting data for 2 weeks, we may be able to actually track more trends in the market. Some of the commodities had some of their data lost due to orc forgetfulness, but that lost data will be shown in the graphics. All prices displayed are averaged out values of available auctions scanned every hour by the hour. Big thanks to superduperauctions.com for providing these data points for me to analyze. First, let's take a look at Black Lotus, the king of the consumable. What may also look like a dip on late last Thursday was actually a server outage. All of the following graphs will just ignore that 1 hour outage and assume the same previous price. Though the normal weekend price hike occurred, we do see a week-on-week decline in the price of Black Lotuses. This could be great news for raiders and PvPers alike. We'll continue to watch for the new market floor for Lotuses. Last week, we highlighted Grom's Blood, a staple for the Flask of the Titans. And we noted a sizable hike last week around popular raid times. This week, however, the supply seemed to keep up with demand, and over 2 weeks the price has only ever slightly decreased, sitting around 90 silver a Grom's Blood. While Grom's Blood price this last week didn't have much action, arcane crystals seem to have had quite a buyout late on Friday, rising from 15 gold all the way to the lower 20s before slowly settling back down by late Sunday. The week-to-week line shows that in general the price has mostly hovered around 15 gold, though there does seem to be a slight bit of growth recently. Cured Rugged Hide had a big rally late last Wednesday into Friday, but those price hikes are still smaller than the higher prices the previous week. The 2-week trend does show that the prices on the cooldown reliant hide is slowly decreasing as well. Last week, Mooncloth was notable for 2 big price hikes mid and late in the week. But this most recent week, it seems that the Moonwell-infused cloth is now finding much lower market bottoms, and its peaks are nearly where the market bottoms were the previous week. Naturally, we see the 2-week trend line showing a steady decrease in the value of the textile. The last real-world commodity we'll touch on is the large brilliant shards. Last week, the price troughs and peaks were not much more than half of gold. This last Friday though, the shards nearly broke 8 gold before leveling out later in the weekend. Between the 2 Tuesdays, it looks like the market is slowly shifting lower for the enchanting good, despite the recent volatility. It would seem in general that many of the big market staples are slowly trending lower. Whether that's from more people being able to get the goods that they need because they're able to farm for it, or because there's less gold sellers, it's hard to say, but either way, trust that we'll keep looking at this. Finally, we'll take a look at a less real-world good and more of a speculative market, the shell coin. Surely, if you spent time in a city, you've heard someone ask you if you want to be rich overnight. I thought it might be nice to take a look at what we know about shell coin from data collected from the Turtle WoW website. Since its inception back in January, where there was a massive spike in value, the speculative shells have hovered between 8 and 10 gold, seemingly starting to pick up in price around mid-March. With a closer look at this last week, we can see that there aren't really too many movers and shakers with the shell coin market. Price hikes and drops seem to happen entirely when one person buys or sells. But hey, I'm sure that person that sold at 9 gold sure is feeling good because now the price is 8 gold 40 silver. Alright, that's all for the Market Watch. Let's shoot over to the community roleplay event calendar. It might be easy to forget, but Turtle WoW is a roleplay server. And in that line of thinking, I figured it would be helpful to make more visible the various roleplay events and opportunities that are happening around the server. Many roleplay events are friendly and inviting to newcomers, so long as participants play along and join in on the storytelling. The very character you see before you, Vrograg, is in fact also an RPer, and I started out on this server playing along with a bunch of people I've never met before, so I always strongly encourage people to give it a try. Unfortunately, because of when I record Turtle WoW news with Vrograg, it is very difficult to broadcast this in a timely manner, when most events, which happen on the weekend, won't be posted for until later this week. So instead, I picked 3 events from last weekend to kind of give a sampler for my viewers so they could see what they might be missing out on. All times and dates are in US Eastern Times unless otherwise noted. A person named Hurunk has posted a job opportunity for explorers and fighters to go loot out a presumably abandoned human settlement near Dustwallow. There are rumors of a powerful warlock who might be in residence, but those rumors are likely overblown. A simple job offering a reward for those who help. Maybe you're right for the job. Meet at Shady Rest Inn near the Barrens on May 21st at 9 a.m. A group calling themselves the Hawk's Talons are recruiting members to join their ranks at the behest of someone named Hunter General Volturn Vondine. The posting has some quite heroic sounding prose. Perhaps these people might be right to join with and whatever they get up to. This would presumably be an Alliance-only event because the meeting happens on the Stormwind Docks on May 21st, 5:30 p.m. It also claims to be a PvE event as well as an RP event, so bring your weapons. Lastly, we see a post made by a mysterious person named Frostspeaker, who claims that the Shamans of Sunrock Retreat have made a request of the Wolfskull clan to see about a missing Planestrider that was due to bring in a Shaman relic that seemingly never arrived. Join with the enigmatic Frostspeaker to help right this wrong on May 21st at 2 p.m. All members of the Horde or their associates are welcome. That's all we have for now. So I would encourage everyone to go check out the events channel in the Discord to find the right RP event for you. You might be surprised how much fun you'll have thinking of a backstory and trying to find just the right outfit to suit your character. Now let's throw it over to Vrograg, who's waiting just outside to introduce our next segment, known as Exploring the Mysteries of Azeroth. Turtle WoW has a lot of great custom content, much of which is little known about across the server. I thought it might be useful for all of us to go take a look into some of those new and unusual places unlocked when you're on Turtle WoW. So I'm starting a little segment I like to call Exploring the Mysteries of Azeroth. The point of these little bits is to help players understand what exactly is going on in the various new places on the server. I don't intend to make dungeon guides. They are out there, and they are much better than anything I'd make. Instead, I want to explore with you, showcase what is there, and maybe help you see some of the sights. So if you ever get a chance to go for yourself, you'll have a better understanding of how it fits into the larger world as a whole. Many areas also have custom music as well, so keep an ear out because I'll be playing that in the background. So without further ado, I present to you this small pilot. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to the wilds of Ashenvale, host to an active war zone, ancient elven ruins, a lumber camp, druids, and demons. I decided to put on my outrageous explorer's outfit and show all of you a custom dungeon here in Ashenvale called the Crescent Grove. If you are curious about how to find the entrance, be sure to examine your map and you will notice the added label, which leads to the instance portal. But I'm not just here to give you directions. I'm here to help intrepid explorers understand what is going on in these new places. What we do understand about the Crescent Grove is that it was once a retreat for druids, and that the last one to take up residence there is an alliance-sworn night elf called Kalinar Brightshine. However, ever since the Third War, many things have been corrupted and stirred to madness all over the area. There is no better example of this than the Vrograg, native to Ashenvale. The largest tribe here is known as the Foul-Wheeled. However, little know that when the Foul-Wheeled fell to rage and madness, not all in their number fell. Some resisted. Those were known as the Grove-Wheeled, and they retreated to Crescent Grove, trying to find refuge from the world that was growing mad all around them. So with all that in mind, let's go take a look at the Grove as it stands now, and see how things are shaping up. Have the new Vrograg tribe that moved in and the druids learned to live in harmony? Or has the scarcity of untainted land pushed the Cenarian Circle into conflict with the Grove-Wheeled tribe? Come with me, and let's go find out. The evening before the exploration began, I used all the resources from Turtle WoW News with Vrograg to try to get an eye in the sky to map out the whole location. Unfortunately, the dungeon doesn't have any custom map that's available when you first enter. So, I've tried to piece one together from all the aerial photography I was able to take. Here's what that looks like right now. As we explore together, I'll mark on the map the places that I go. Feel free to come back to this moment in the video if you're interested in having a map for yourself. Okay, we're finally in, and I can immediately find evidence of the Grove-Wheeled Vrograg tribe. My plan is to stick to the eastern hills and find out what I can. I use my skills of stealth, higher level, and a media badge. I am allowed never before seen access into these Vrograg. They don't seem too different than most Vrograg I've encountered. Basic tribal camps, shamanic traditions, and a social hierarchy all seem pretty normal. The verdant nature of the grove certainly has provided well for them, with these rich diets of fruit and what seems to be tall strider. That totem does seem rather strange. What kind of ancestor worship is that? Surveying the tribal grounds once more, I am struck with the realization that many of these Vrograg do seem a bit off. Some just pace back and forth, others wield elemental power seemingly for the fun of it, and many have weapons ready for battle, though there is no enemy in sight. The grove almost feels cold. If I were to adventure in here, I'd bring friends. I think these may not be as peaceful as I was led to believe. perhaps heading up to the rise where the eldest or most powerful Firbolg reside, might shed some light on the situation. The Groveweald have a trio of leaders that make the decisions for their tribe, though I dare not ask them, much less I get wrapped up in whatever madness may have befallen these sad creatures. Pressing on and leaving the creepy camp of the Groveweald, I try to backtrack to following the western hills, and it's not long before I see what might be affecting the Firbolg. Behind me, we are seeing verifiable evidence that the demonic taint that plagues part of Ashenvale has sadly also spread to this verdant place. This explorer has no intention of playing around with fell magics or the remnant forces of the Burning Legion, but it seems that this taint is small and only localized, so we're just going to try to move around it, because just beyond we see signs of elven ruins, the perennial favorite for any explorer. Moving around the burned earth, we press on and enjoy the beauty that surely made this place a welcome retreat for druids. We stop on the steps of a ruined building to observe the very power of nature at work. Just beyond me, you can see a creature known as a dryad, a creature of great druidic power and majesty. Here in this place, on an island surrounded by a stream, this dryad tends to what one can only assume is his grove, though given his lack of action against the nearby demonic forces, that could mean there is more at play here than just a lazy dryad. I'd advise any adventurer to approach carefully. I pause near the dryad for a short while before pressing on south to see what other natural beauty might be in the grove. I see signs of moving trees, sprite darters, and bears, which means the grove is looking healthy. I continue on south where the grove continues, but then I stop cold in my tracks when I see that the fell taint is much worse than I first thought. Behind me, you can see demons walking around in broad daylight, and it's not just mindless imps and infernals. I see brutal-looking Felguard types. The air ahead reeks of sulfur. However, just to either side of me, I can also hear magical chanting, so I think we ought to take a look, maybe get some context for what's going on here. Surely this magic user must know more. I turn off the main trail and go up the side path to find a peculiar sight. A night elf, a druid I presume, chanting in front of some kind of warding stone that is flanked by two haunting-looking totems. I don't want to alarm the night elf, who I believe is trying to ward away the demonic taint from the area north of us. It must be a Herculean effort with the mass of the Burning Legion just a stone's throw away. I will leave him to his devices for now, but something about those twisted ghost-faced totems really gives me the chills. I wonder whose side he's really on. Well, I'm as brave an orc as any other, so I press on, plugging my nose against the sour smell of the demons ahead. Perhaps I could get better clarity on the depths of the corruption in the area with enough sneaking around and flashing my media badge. There are water features nearby that still run, and the water doesn't look neon green like it does in Felwood. There might actually be signs of life further ahead, though admittedly the water doesn't look too healthy. I'm starting to see fellhounds now as well. I attempt to keep to the eastern hills as I explore, and I'm drawn by the glowing bright pools that look like moonwells up ahead. An oddity so close to the demons, but perhaps I got in a little over my head, because now I observe near these elven ruins glowing specters, ghosts of the ancient builders of the ruins I traipsed through. I stop for a moment as I notice a particularly strong form, some kind of spirit that still has its shape from when it was alive. Just behind me is a conglomeration of angry spirits of the long-dead elves of the area, no doubt brought to anger by the nearby corruption. I am trying to stay out of her sight, but in the middle of the standing structure behind me is some kind of spirit who still looks like one of those long-dead elves. Just when I thought this trip couldn't get any spookier, I found another reason to keep a low profile. Though I am a little unnerved by another hostile faction entering the fray here in the Crescent Grove, I continue to sneak along the east again, minding my way around some rocky outcroppings. I'd like to get a better view of the waterways while dodging the patrolling demons. I follow the sound of a waterfall and press on until I find a clearing on a cliff overlooking the water feature, where I am once again faced with ancient elven ghosts, though these seem more peaceful. Behind me, you can see the ghostly shadow of two elves that seem to be guarding some still intact ruin. The symbol of the crescent is clear to see on the green metal door. These two entities do not seem hostile, but I'm not trying to take any unnecessary risks. Any adventuring group might like this little diversion if the monotony of demonic gray and hellfire gets too tiresome. Finally, with little else to explore, I press on south, and ever deeper into the demon-infested remnants of the grove. It is slow going, trying to dodge patrols and remain inconspicuous, but I will always do my best to do as thorough an exploration as I can. We stop at a crossing where a great many demons seem to guard a path up to a rise. With a little clever climbing and patience, I get to the end of the path, where I find, presumably, the leader of the demonic incursion, a creature known as the Terror Guard. Given the danger, I won't speak much here, but based on how all the other demons act around this one, this must be the one in charge. Surely, if this one can be removed, then perhaps the grove can rest once more. I'm going to get out of here before I get noticed. Well, that does it for exploring the mysteries of Azeroth with Vrograg for now. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found this exploration RP guide useful for all your future endeavors. Let's go back to the news. Wow, the news sure does go by fast. Thanks for joining me. Vrograg, your news anchor orc. I hope you enjoyed today's programming. If you'd like to reach me, you can whisper me in-game or send mail. Bonus points for RP. As always, you can leave a message down below in the comment section with any of your ideas or hot news tips. I really appreciate the positive little news community we're fostering here, and as long as all of you keep being supportive, I'll keep trying to make content. Also, if you get a chance, make sure to subscribe. That about wraps up our time for today. I hope to see all of you again next broadcast. This is Vrograg Fish Slayer signing off, and remember, knowledge is the deadliest weapon.